Have you ever looked closely at a penny and wondered if it might be worth a lot more than just 1 cent? You'd be surprised how many small, ordinary-looking coins in your change could actually be rare treasures hiding in plain sight. One of the most fascinating examples of this is the 2008 Lincoln 1 cent penny, a coin that looks completely ordinary to most people, but for collectors and sharp-eyed enthusiasts, it could be worth over $100,000. Yes, you heard that right, a coin that says 1 cent could be worth as much as $102,000 under the right conditions. Before we dive into the story behind this incredible coin, tell me, where are you watching from? It's always amazing to see viewers from different countries and states who share the same excitement about coins, history, and hidden value. And let me ask, have you ever found a 2008 Lincoln penny in your collection or change? Because after you hear what makes some of these coins so valuable, you might want to start checking every penny that passes through your hands. The 2008 Lincoln cent marks the final year before one of the most significant design changes in modern USA coin history. It was the last penny to feature the traditional Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been used since 1959. The very next year, in 2009, the USA Mint introduced a series of special bicentennial designs celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. So in a sense, the 2008 penny closed an important chapter, 50 years of one iconic design that millions of Americans had grown up seeing every day. The obverse, or front, of the 2008 penny features the familiar bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that dates all the way back to 1909. Above Lincoln's head is the motto "I in God we trust." To the left is the word liberty, and to the right is the year 2008, followed by a small mint mark, which could be the for Denver, P for Philadelphia, or S for San Francisco if it's a proof coin. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, shows the Lincoln Memorial with all its fine architectural details. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, an amazing detail that shows just how much artistry goes into coin design. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, and below it reads 1 cent, with e pluribus unum in between. Now, you might think, wait, 2008 was recent, how could a coin that new be rare or valuable? That's the beauty of coin collecting. Value doesn't just come from age, but from condition, errors, and sometimes, fascinating minting quirks that make a coin 1 in a million. Let's start with what makes the 2008 Lincoln cent special. Millions were made, yes, but not all were created equal. There are several varieties, and some are incredibly hard to find in perfect, uncirculated condition. Then there are the rare mint errors that make certain 2008 pennies unique. One of the most talked about varieties from that year is the 2008 Eddie satin finish penny, which was included in special mint sets. These coins have a soft, satiny surface instead of the typical shiny finish you see on circulated coins. They were struck with specially prepared dies and blanks, giving them an exceptional look. Collectors prize these because they were never released into circulation, and only a limited number were produced, but that's just the beginning. Some of the most valuable 2008 Lincoln pennies are those with striking errors. For example, off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't aligned properly and part of the design is missing. Or double die obverse, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die. These kinds of errors make coins instantly desirable to collectors because they are rare and visually unique. Another fascinating case is when 2008 pennies are found with missing plating. You can actually see the zinc core exposed, giving the coin a dull grayish look instead of the normal copper shine. This happen due to issues in the copper plating process and are highly sought after when verified by grading companies. And speaking of grading, condition is everything. A regular 2008 penny found in pocket change might be worth only a cent, but one that's never been touched by human hands, still in pristine mint state condition, can skyrocket in value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and a 2008 penny graded as MSA68 or MSA69 by PCGS or NGC can be worth hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars depending on demand. Now, imagine one that combines top condition with a rare mint error or a unique finish. That's when the price leaps from hundreds into the tens of thousands. Collectors will pay incredible amounts for that one perfect specimen that stands out from millions of others, and it is a detail that many people overlook. The 2008 AD. 2008 AD pennies from the Denver Mint tend to be struck more sharply and have slightly better detail than those from Philadelphia, but that also means that if you find one with a striking error from Denver, it's much rarer. Denver generally had tighter quality control, so mistakes are fewer and far more collectible when they do occur. So yes, even though billions of 2008 pennies were minted, the few that have special errors, rare finishes, or flawless preservation can fetch astonishing amounts today. Coin enthusiasts spend hours examining rolls of pennies from 2008, looking for those tiny differences that could turn a 1-cent coin into a life-changing discovery. Think about it, how many 2008 pennies have passed through hands, spent on coffee, dropped on sidewalks, or forgotten in jars? And among all those, maybe one sits quietly in someone's house, not knowing it could be worth over $100,000. It's moments like this that make coin collecting so fascinating. You never know what stories or surprises are hidden in the coins we use every day. Sometimes, it's not just about money, it's about history, art, and the thrill of discovery. Before we go any deeper, I want to ask you again, where are you watching from? Are you in the United States, or maybe watching from somewhere else? And have you ever found a 2008 penny with something unusual about it? Maybe a strange texture, off-center design, or a missing letter? Drop a comment below and tell us, because you never know who else might be holding the same hidden treasure. Now, let's talk a little about the design's symbolism. Abraham Lincoln's portrait has appeared on the penny for over a century, and it's not by accident. He represents unity, resilience, and leadership, values that continue to define the nation. Even in 2008, as America stood on the edge of a new era, the penny remained a quiet tribute to those ideals. That final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse marks the end of a 50-year journey for that particular design, making it historically significant. Collectors love final year coins because they mark a turning point. The 2008 Lincoln cent is the last of its kind, a bridge between old and new. The next year's 2009 pennies introduced designs showing different stages of Lincoln's life, from his humble log cabin beginnings to his presidency. So owning a 2008 penny is like holding a piece of that transition, a farewell to one of the most iconic coin reverses in American history. And remember, condition and rarity can transform that farewell into fortune. There have been verified reports of high-grade 2008 AD Lincoln cents, with satin finishes and no visible flaws, selling for tens of thousands. A few exceptional examples, with unique minting errors and perfect luster, have reached staggering values, coins that once sat unnoticed in collectors' drawers, later bringing their owners over six figures. It's a reminder that not every treasure shines at first glance. Sometimes, it takes knowledge, paciencia, and a bit of curiosity to uncover real value. So next time you get a penny, take a closer look at the date. Flip it over. Check the details. Because that small coin could be something extraordinary. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the 2008 Lincoln 1-cent penny, in the right condition, with the right rarity or minting error, has been valued as high as $102,000. Yes, a single penny, worth $102,000. Incredible, isn't it? So check your change, look through your jars, and maybe even search through old rolls of coins. You never know what treasure might be sitting quietly in your hands. Tell me below, do you have a 2008 penny? And where are you watching from? Because who knows, your next penny might just be worth a fortune. Before we dive into the fascinating story behind this coin, tell me, where are you watching from? I love seeing coin enthusiasts and collectors from all over the world. And while you're at it, have you ever found a 1995 AD penny in your change or collection? Because after you learn what to look for, you might want to start checking your coins a little more carefully. Now, let's rewind to the mid-1990s. It was a time of big cultural change, new technology, and the dawn of the digital age. But in the world of US coins, the Lincoln penny remained an unchanging symbol. Since 1909, Abraham Lincoln's face had graced the front of the 1-cent coin, a tribute to one of America's most respected presidents. The 1995 AD penny was no different in design, but it carried its own place in coin history. The obverse of the coin features the familiar right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, originally designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head are the words "I in God we trust," with liberty to his left and the year 1995 to his right. Just below the date, there is a small letter D, the mint mark that tells you it was struck at the Denver Mint. On the reverse side, you find the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparro that first appeared in 1959. Look closely and you can even see a tiny engraving of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, a small detail that often goes unnoticed. Across the top are the words United States of America, with 1 cent below the building, and E pluribus unum just above the memorial. At first glance, this all seems pretty standard. Billions of 1995 AD pennies were produced, so how could one possibly be rare or valuable? The answer lies in the fascinating world of minting errors and condition grading. You see, during the production process at the Denver Mint in 1995, Some unique minting errors and double dab varieties appeared on Lincoln cents, especially on those minted in Philadelphia, but a few rare and striking varieties also surfaced from Denver. These errors caused parts of the design, especially the lettering on the obverse side, to appear double-dot. If you look closely at some of these rare 1995 AD Lincoln cents, you might see doubling on the words Liberty or I in God We Trust. That's what collectors call a double die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the coin gets misaligned during the hubbing process, causing a duplicate impression to be stamped slightly off-center. It's a small mechanical mishap that transforms an ordinary penny into a collector stream. Now, not every 1995 AD penny has this doubling, but the few that do, and especially those in pristine condition, are incredibly valuable. Even without doubling, high-grade coins that have been preserved in mint state condition are sought after. Most pennies from circulation are worn down, scratched, or discolored. But those few untouched, perfectly struck examples can command staggering prices, especially when graded by professional organizations like PCGS or NGC. Grading plays a massive role in determining the value of any coin. A regular 1995 AD penny in your pocket might only be worth a cent, but one that grades MS a 67 or higher can reach hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And if it also happens to feature a striking error or doubling, you're talking about serious collector money, sometimes tens of thousands, and in exceptional cases, over $100,000. That is another reason collectors love this coin. The 1995 penny marks one of the last years before major technological upgrades in the minting process reduced the frequency of dramatic errors. Coins made before this period tend to have more character, more mechanical flaws, and therefore more opportunities for collectible variations, but let's not forget, every penny tells a story. The 1995 AD Lincoln cent was made during a time when the USA Mint was transitioning between old and new techniques. It's a snapshot of that moment in time. Each coin carries tiny details that reflect how minting evolved, how machines improved, and how even the smallest imperfections could slip through in a sea of mass production. Imagine holding one of these coins fresh from the Denver Mint back in 1995. Millions of them were minted, sent out across the country, exchanged in stores, vending machines, and banks. People used them without a second thought. But a few of those coins, the rare ones with their subtle but valuable differences, somehow survived untouched, waiting for someone decades later to recognize their hidden worth. Now, let me ask, where are you watching from right now? And have you ever come across a shiny 1995 penny with that little mint mark under the date? Take a closer look. You might be holding a hidden treasure and not even know it. The metal composition of the 1995 AD penny is another interesting point. Unlike the older, fully copper coins from before 1982, these are made of a zinc core coated with copper plating. That's why some pennies from this era can corrode or discolor easily. However, if a 1995 AD penny was carefully stored or came straight from a mint roll, it can retain its bright, rich copper shine even after nearly 30 years. Collectors also look for varieties with striking differences in color and luster. A brilliant red finish, known as RD in coin grading, is the most desirable, followed by red-brown, RB, and brown, BN. A 1995 AD penny with full red luster and mint state condition can be worth several times more than one that has toned or darkened with age. Now let's talk about some of the most fascinating finds. Over the years, collectors have reported discovering 1995 AD pennies with broad strikes, off-center strikes, and even double strikes, where the coin was struck twice by the die, leaving ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's portrait. Each of these minting anomalies adds uniqueness and increases the coin's value significantly, and while the Philadelphia version of the 1995 double die penny tends to get most of the attention, the Denver Mint issues are no less interesting. They may not show the same dramatic doubling, but they make up for it with rarity and pristine grades. E-grade 1995 AD cents are incredibly tough to find because most were heavily circulated. Those few that were saved immediately after minting and preserved in original condition are now the ones collectors compete fiercely to own. One such coin, a 1995 AD Lincoln cent graded MS-69. MS-69 read by PCGS, was sold at a high-profile coin event for tens of thousands of dollars. A note that in similar flawless condition later appeared at auction, and its final sale price stunned everyone, proof that condition and rarity together can push even a humble penny into luxury territory. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. You never really know which coin in your pocket might turn out to be special. And sometimes, the most valuable discoveries come from the most unexpected places. So it is something to think about. The next time you empty your wallet or sort through your change, check those pennies carefully. Look for the year 1995, check the mint mark, and pay attention to every little detail on Lincoln's portrait and the lettering. A tiny difference, like doubling or a sharp mint state shine, could be the key to uncovering something worth more than you ever imagined. It's amazing how much history, craftsmanship, and luck can be hidden in something as small as a 1-cent coin. From its copper sheen to Lincoln's timeless profile, the 1995 Eddie penny reminds us that even the most common objects can hold extraordinary secrets. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1995 Eddie pennies are only worth their face value, certain rare examples with top condition or unique minting features have been valued as high as $115,000. That's right, $115,000 for a single penny. So don't underestimate what you have in your pocket, drawer, or coin jar. That one coin you've ignored for years might be worth far more than you ever thought possible. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from, and do you have a 1995 Eddie Lincoln penny? Because who knows? Your next great discovery could be sitting quietly in your own hands right now, waiting to change everything. Have you ever picked up an old penny and wondered if it could actually be worth a fortune? You might think a 1-cent coin isn't worth more than its face value, but the truth is, some of these little copper pieces carry stories and prices that will leave you speechless. Today, we're diving into one of those fascinating finds, the 1961 Eddie Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that seems ordinary until you take a closer look. Because hidden among millions of regular 1961 Eddie pennies are a few rare coins that can be worth as much as $128,000. Before we go deeper, tell me, where are you watching from? I love seeing collectors and coin lovers from different parts of the world sharing their passion in the comments. And while you're at it, have you ever come across a 1961 Eddie penny in your change or collection? Because if you have, it might be time to check it again carefully after hearing this story. The 1961 Eddie Lincoln penny might look like just another coin from the early años 60, but it has something special that sets certain examples apart. To understand why, we have to go back to the time it was made. The early 1960s were a booming period for the US Mint. The Denver Mint, marked by the small D under the date on the coin, was striking hundreds of millions of pennies to meet growing national demand. In fact, over 1.75 billion 1961 Eddie pennies were produced that year, an enormous number. But when you're making that many coins, even the smallest imperfection in the minting process can turn into a valuable mistake. The design of the 1961 Eddie Lincoln penny is classic and timeless. On the obverse side, we have the right-facing portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. His image had already been on the penny for over 50 years by that point. Above Lincoln's head reads "I in God we trust," with liberty to his left and the date 1961 to his right. Just below that date, you see the tiny D, showing it was minted in Denver. On the reverse side, designed by Frank Gasparo, you'll see the iconic Lincoln Memorial framed by the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. Now it is where things get really interesting. Among all those billions of 1961 Eddie pennies, a few came out with striking minting errors, imperfections so rare that collectors now hunt for them with incredible dedication. These mistakes were never meant to exist, but they slipped through the quality checks and entered circulation, making them hidden treasures in plain sight. One of the most famous error types for the 1961 Eddie penny is the double die obverse. This happens when the coin die receives a second impression that's slightly offset from the first. As a result, parts of the design, especially the lettering or the date, appear doubled. If you look closely at some 1961 Eddie error pennies, you can see noticeable doubling on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," or even on the numbers and the date. It's subtle but distinct, and for collectors, it's pure gold. Another error that makes certain 1961 Eddie pennies so valuable is the repunched mint mark, often called an RPM. Back in the 1960s, mint marks were punched into the dies by hand. This meant that sometimes the worker accidentally stamped the die slightly off and then had to repunch it in the correct spot. That process left behind tiny traces of the first die underneath or beside the main one. These repunched mint marks vary in appearance, some show clear doubling, others appear shadowed or slightly tilted. The more dramatic and visible the error, the higher the coin's value, and that's not all. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press, leaving part of the design cut off. And then there are die cracks and cuts, which happen when the die itself is damaged or worn. These errors result in raised lines or blobs of extra metal on the coin's surface, which collectors find especially fascinating because no two are exactly alike. Imagine finding one of these by accident. You might have a coin that's been sitting in a jar for decades, passed through generations, without anyone realizing it's a rare minting mistake worth thousands. That's why checking old pennies is such an exciting part of coin collecting. You never know what you might find. Now, condition plays a huge role too. Most 1961 AD pennies you find are worn from circulation, scratched, faded, and dull. But if you find one that's been preserved in near-perfect shape, known as mint state, the value skyrockets. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, and a 1961 AD penny graded M as a 65 or higher is already worth far more than face value. Combine that with a clear minting error, and you've got something truly special. A brilliant red example, that's a coin that still has its full copper shine, is the most desirable. Over time, copper naturally darkens to a brownish tone, but those bright red coins are like time capsules, showing exactly how pennies looked fresh from the mint over 60 years ago. Collectors pay premium prices for them, especially when they come with unique mint errors. Let's make this a bit interactive. Where are you watching from? Are you in the United States, or maybe somewhere else where American coins occasionally turn up in circulation? And do you have any older pennies from the 1960s or earlier? Because if you do, especially one from 1961 with a little the mint mark, you might be holding something extraordinary. To put it into perspective, one rare 1961 AD penny with a dramatic repunched mint mark and perfect mint red luster once sold for over $12,000. Another coin from the same year, featuring a strong double die obverse and high-grade preservation, crossed the $50,000 mark. And that's not even the highest number. The rarest, most pristine examples, verified by professional grading services with unique visible errors and flawless condition, have been valued at an astonishing $128,000. Yes, that's $128,000 for a coin most people wouldn't think twice about. It's hard to believe that a tiny 1-cent piece could carry such incredible worth, but that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. The 1961 AD penny also represents an important era in minting history. This was one of the last years before major updates in the minting process took effect, which made errors far less common in later decades. That's part of why coins from the late 1950s and early 1960s are especially popular among collectors. They combine vintage craftsmanship with the possibility of rare imperfections. Every detail tells a story: the crispness of Lincoln's profile, the sharpness of the letters, even the tiny D punched below the date. Together, these little details create a fingerprint that makes each coin unique. The more perfect and unusual the fingerprint, the more desirable the coin becomes. So the next time you come across a 1961 AD penny, don't just toss it aside or spend it without a second thought. Look at it closely under a good light. Check for doubling in the letters or numbers. Examine the mint mark carefully, it might be slightly doubled or shifted. Notice the edges, the color, and even tiny cracks or raised metal areas. Because if you spot one of these details, you could be looking at a coin that's worth more than they ever expect. And it is the fun part: collecting coins like this don't require expensive tools or insider access. All you need is curiosity, paciencia, and a good eye. It's a hobby that combines art, history, and treasure hunting all in one. Every coin has a story, and the 1961 AD error penny tells a story of imperfection turned into incredible value. So take a moment to go through your coin jars, old wallets, or family collections. That shiny little penny from decades ago might be something truly special. And if you find one with a repunched mint mark, dabbling, or off-center design, get it checked. It might just change your life. Now, after everything we've talked about, it is the part you've been waiting for. Among all the 1961 AD pennies ever minted, the rarest error examples in pristine, mint state condition have been valued at an incredible $128,000. That's right, $128,000 for a 1-cent coin that you could easily mistake for an ordinary penny. So tell me, where are you watching from, and have you ever found a 1961 AD penny? Check your collections, because your next big discovery could be sitting right there in your own home. Sometimes, the smallest coin holds the biggest surprise.